Every conversation tells a story, and the best ones begin with honesty, courage, and a little curiosity. That's where Elsa Kurt comes in. She's an author, podcaster, and independent media personality, and this is where she brings real life to the table. Authors, thinkers, creators, leaders, everyday folks with extraordinary journeys. We sit down, we dig in, and we talk about what matters, what's messy, what's beautiful, and what just might inspire you to look at the world a little differently. So pour a cup of something good, settle back and join me. This is Elsa Kurt Interviews, where truth has a seat and everyone's welcome.
And today I have with me the author of Finding the Nature of Christ. This is Robert Oakes. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
You are very, very welcome. I'm so glad. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You did forewarn me that some people are maybe going to get uncomfortable, right? And that's okay. It's okay to get uncomfortable. So I think it's a fascinating topic. So I mentioned the title. So when people hear this title, they might expect something abstract or even academic. But when you look at your life, it's anything but that. And I took a look at your bio, of course. And now you correct me if you need to. You have been a carpenter, a sailor, an engineer, a linguist, a pastor. You have worked with your hands. You've worked with equations, languages, and with people, of course. So before we even talk about the book itself, I really want to start there. How does a life that wide and varied lead someone to write about the nature of Christ? This is so fascinating to me. I would love for everyone to share a little bit about you and then, of course, that journey.
Well, I come from humble beginnings. My father was a carpenter, and I was very fortunate, very blessed. When I was 12 years old, he took me under his wing and taught me all about carpentry. So when by the time I graduated from high school, I was drawing a journeyman's wage. I'd already had a career set up for me, But I was also a good high school student, and somewhere along the line, I met with my congressman and ended up getting nominated, or I should say appointed, to the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis and to the United States Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point. And my congressman told me, pick one. And so I had to kind of think about that a little bit. I thought I would have a little bit more, less strict atmosphere if I chose the Merchant Marine Academy, because I would be appointed, or once I graduated, I'd be commissioned as an ensign in the Navy Reserve or as a third mate on a merchant ship. But the thing that really intrigued me was when I went on my sea training, the second semester of my freshman year. It's a good thing it was early, because that's where I found out about life. And, I had to make a decision. I shipped out of New Orleans and went all the way to Hamburg, Germany, and all the ports in between. And during that time, I had a lot of time to myself, and I kind of had an epiphany. And all the guys on the ship, the crews, the officers, everything else, they were all telling me the same thing. They said, if you want to be a family man, don't be a sailor. And I said, well, why is that? Well, come to find out, most of them had been married 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
They said, you're going to be out to sea 9 months out of the year, and it's not conducive to a good home life. And I thought about it. And then when we got to the ports in Europe, I discovered what my home life was going to be like. As soon as you get off the ship, the very first places that you run into in the harbor were the bars and the brothels.
Sure, right.
That was not a life I really cared to be around. So I resigned after that first year. So I wasn't a sailor for very long. you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, that's such a whole other life and not at all conducive to family life, to growing a family. So yeah, those stats are pretty hard to hear that, that many of them just can't sustain that kind of life. So what motivated you to become an author? Because there's so many people who say that they want to write a book or have a dream of writing a book, but they never really take that next step. What was it for you that made you feel compelled?
Well, back in the late 1990s, my dad had taken me to go visit my great uncle. And he had a cousin who was still alive. He was in his 90s at the time. And he suggested that they go over and visit her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, come to find out, she was the daughter of the family of immigrants that immigrated to the United States from Germany.
Mm.
Well, that got my curiosity up. So I started asking all sorts of questions. And then when we took my uncle back home, he gave me a big suitcase filled with pictures from my great grandmother's album.
Mm.
And the good thing about it was she put first names on them, but she didn't put last names on them.
Oh boy.
Didn't know who they were per se.
Sure.
So I decided that I was going to start doing some genealogy research and find out who all these people are. I did that, and then I began to realize that just looking at births and dates, it's kind of boring.
Mm.
There were some that had some real interesting stories along with it. And I thought to myself, what can I do for my posterity? And my grandchildren just kept asking me all the time about all these stories that I had in my youth. And I thought, why not write about them?
Mm.
So I wrote a lot of, maybe 4 or 5 pages, and then the 4 or 5 pages turned into about 20 pages, and then a little bit more. And they love the stories where I wrestled a bear,
Yeah.
they just those little things that really excited them. But as far as this book goes, what motivated me about this was when I was in the service. I was on survival training up in the state of Washington. And I was rooming with a good friend of mine. He was also an airman at the time. And we got into some serious conversations. And ironically, he had a book on him and he gave it to me. He said, "You can have this." Now, as he talked to me, he was an agnostic.
Mm.
But the book he gave me was The Mystical Life of Jesus. And I wasn't sure if I was going to read it because I had just been ordained to the priesthood about 2 years prior to that.
Mm.
And if it wasn't in accordance with my denomination, I wasn't going to read it.
Sure.
Well, they decided to go into town one weekend, and I needed to send some money back home to my family. And so I decided to stay there and read the book. And it said a lot of things in there that was different than what I had heard in the Bible or saw in the Bible.
Mm.
And I told myself at that time, I'm going to research this. And the question that I asked myself, or the statement that I told myself was, if I'm ever going to understand the nature of Christ, I think that would help me to better understand myself.
Mm.
And that thought I woke up with every single morning. It was like a mantra. And then suddenly the funniest things started occurring. All these serendipitous events would occur. Like for one day I come home from work and I found a book in my mailbox. The book was on meditation by a master in Kriya Yoga.
Mm.
And I read the book. And I actually started practicing meditation as a result of reading that book.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were other events that came along. When I was in the service, my permanent change of station was in Athens, Greece. And that opened up a whole different avenue of learning.
Absolutely.
I took 2 archaeology classes, was on an archaeology dig. I discovered how to research ancient manuscripts I started reading, such of those manuscripts. I found out about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I found out about the Nag Hammadi Library, which is very interesting, by the way. And then I started having dreams.
Mm.
And but all along I suppressed all this information. Being the pastor and preaching about it, I didn't want to say anything to the congregation because I knew how this would affect them.
Mm-hmm.
Until one day I opened up and I found out that they needed to hear this. They wanted to hear this.
Yeah.
And the congregation started to grow. And I was dumbfounded by that. But I didn't open up all the way.
Yeah.
So when I retired and I had the time and I had the knowledge now, because this was over a 50-year period when all this went on.
Wow. Yeah.
I took all
lifetime.
the notes,
Mm-hmm.
and I put them in my notes.
Wow.
That's what motivated me to write the book, because I felt like there was something nudging me onward. I didn't really want to do it because I knew it was time consuming, and I never really considered myself to be a writer.
Okay.
But it just kept nudging at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not overcome it. And so finally I just sat down and did it.
Wow. Tell me a little bit, if you will, so you were hesitant to share everything that you were learning. What was holding you back? What was the concern? You did touch on a little that, people who go strictly by the Bible and like it's whatever the Bible says, that's all there is and nothing else. Were those the people that you were concerned with sharing this information with?
Well, what I had to realize before I did it was the original Church of Jesus Christ is not the same church that became the Roman Catholic Church
mm-hmm.
in the 5th century. And they had a narrative that they tried to put out there because they were dealing with a nation where most of these new converts were previously pagans.
Mm.
So they had to make Jesus look like this dominating God.
Mm.
And you better obey him or else you're going to go somewhere you don't want to go when you die.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way it was.
Right.
That's the way it was. Here's one of the things that was really astounding to me. We've always been told in the Bible that Jesus had learned from his Father and it grew in stature and became the person that he was and did all the miracles and all these things as a result of that learning. Actuality, his maternal grandfather was a high priest in the Essene community.
Wow.
And Jesus associated with the Essenes. The Bible doesn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Josephus calls them another sect of Jews.
Mm-hmm.
But they were the ones that started the prophecies, because Jeremiah was a master of the Essenes. Isaiah was a master of the Essenes, and they started the prophecies about the anointed one that will be coming.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus' grandfather was a high priest there. And there was a school that was among the layers in the ruins on Mount Carmel. It was the 8th level. And the people around there called this the School of the Prophets.
Mm.
What's interesting is there were manuscripts that talked about who some of the famous people were that went to that school.
Mm.
One of them was Pythagoras, who we know as being the father of geometry. And there were 2 young boys around 6 years old. One was named John, the son of Zacharias, and the other one was named Yeshua, the son of Joseph.
Wow. Wow.
And he was 6 years old. And then it hit me.
Yeah.
That's where he got the knowledge to confound the the Sanhedrin during his bar mitzvah when he was 12, 13 years old.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that whole process of research, because it sounds daunting, actually. I mean, was it all just readily available to you because of where you were being in Greece? I mean, there's, so much different access, I would imagine, to that kind of information, no?
Well, it's difficult to find a lot of that. They got a wonderful museum in Athens, that now I didn't get to the manuscripts on there, but I saw a lot of the artifacts from that time period. But it was hard to come by, but I have all the books of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I have in my possession all the books of the Nag Hammadi Library.
Wow.
And what's interesting, a lot of those books in the Nag Hammadi Library, some of those books were books that were initially in the Bible that got removed later because it wasn't carrying out the narrative that they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the most important books, because the book I'm writing now is When Wisdom Mourns. And that'll probably come out in the spring. But it's dealing with the secret teachings of Jesus.
Okay.
And that's where the Nag Hammadi Library books come in, because it's through all those. And when I write about it, I'm going to update it to issues that dominate our day and time now.
Okay.
Like transgenderism.
Mm-hmm. So if you could, I'd be really curious. I'm sure everyone would be really curious if you could share just one thing. Of course, I don't want you to give away anything really in the book. I want everybody to go and read it. But could you give me like one thing that you learned about Jesus's early life that would surprise people?
Well, first of all, the three wise men, they were not there during his birth. They came into play when he was about 3 years old. And what motivated them to do that was because Jesus was a very special boy. He was able to do things that was beyond his years. And they had heard about it, and they had come over from the eastern parts of the world to check this boy out. Now, the Bible says there were 3 of them, but there are other references that says that there were 12 of them.
Wow.
So I haven't gotten into that.
Yeah. You mentioned so that you're working on another book right now. From this book to that one, is this a series or are they just standalone books?
They're standalone books. I've got several others in mind to write. It's more historical fiction, and outside of this genre,
Nice. Isn't that wild how that happens? Did you think, I'm just curious, random question. I'm curious, when you wrote and published your first book, did you think, okay, that's it. I did it. I purged this desire to do this, or did it immediately ignite a fire to write more books?
Well, when I first published it, I didn't anticipate that anyone would know about it. It's in the genre where there's about thousands and thousands of books on that genre. And I'm sure that the next book out there is going to be right down at the bottom of the list. Of course, nobody knew who I was, but I didn't care. I didn't care whether I make money off it. I didn't write it because I wanted to make money off it. I had a message, and it's pertinent to this day and age, and I've got to get it out there.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps nudging me on. And nudging me on with this next book, especially this next book, because I'll be talking about things that Christianity has not talked about in ages.
Yeah, I think it's a great time for it too. Really, as more people, as much as the mainstream media does not want you to know this, folks, but there is a huge turn toward Jesus. I know that there's a lot more people out there that have these questions and want to have that connection and want to understand and know more about the life of Jesus, what he means in each of our lives. So I think books like this are very, very timely and very necessary. And I love your attitude about putting it out there, because there's so many people, unfortunately, that think like they're going to write a book and it's going to, hit the bestsellers list, and they don't know anything that's, they think they're going to live off of their book. It's just, as you mentioned, there are just, millions of books out there, thousands upon thousands of authors out there and aspiring authors out there. And if your motivation is, if your scope of focus is so narrow that all you're thinking about is the dollar signs, you're going to be very disappointed. But if you're doing it with your mindset of that, you just have this knowledge inside you and this information or story, whatever the case is inside you, that you feel compelled to put out in the world, it will reach who it needs to reach. So I love that you just said, you know what, I know all of these things and I'm doing it anyway because I believe in it so much. So I just absolutely applaud you for that. And I'm really looking forward to reading the books. I got to add the S at the end of that. There's more than one.
Well, some of the reviews that I've gotten back on this have been from Christians. Mm-hmm. Christians who were disenfranchised for whatever reasons.
Sure.
One of them, signed his name as Reverent, such and such. And as controversial as this book might be, he got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And so many of them were saying, this is beyond denominational boundaries. Mm. And that's what they like about it.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, all the reviews are 5 stars.
See?
I'm not complaining, but it's
but it's clearly hitting striking a chord with people, right? It's hitting something with people. It's resonating with them. Probably things that they didn't even know that they needed to know, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's probably a huge part of it. What would you want? My almost last question for you. What is one thing you would want the reader to walk away having read your book? Like, what would you want them to think or feel after?
It's one thing to go to church every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, and call yourself a good Christian and believing in God. That's one thing. My opinion is that really what you're saying is you believe in your denomination and what the denomination is saying. Mm-hmm. But are you spiritual? There's a difference between being religious and being spiritual.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that what the book does is teach you how to become spiritual. And I'm going to give you a hint. This is out of the book of Thomas. It's one of the books that was in the Nag Hammadi Library. This is going to be in my next book. Jesus was saying, he said, there are some leaders out there that says that heaven is in the sky. But if that were true, all the birds of heaven would be flying there. There are other leaders that are saying that heaven is within the sea. And if that were true, then all the fish of the sea would be swimming there. But verily I say unto you, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Now you start looking at scriptures like this. Be still and know that I am. That book on meditation I mentioned, that's a good book to start out with.
Yeah.
Because when you go into yourself, what Jesus was saying is that the kingdom of heaven is not a place. It's a state of consciousness. And he's and I could go on and I'll get into details. I'll just mention it real quickly. There are 7 levels of consciousness. Jesus, of course, be at the highest level. But when we die, we may not be. We think we're going to go to heaven, You know, the scientists of Einstein and Tesla say it the best. And I also have a broad background in physics and quantum physics and things like that because I was an engineer for years. They say that, and Tesla says it the best, it's all about energy, frequency, and vibration. That's what it is. And here's vibration and frequency. It's all about love. Because when you go within yourself, your inner vibration begins to rise. Your aura starts to change colors to the higher levels. And that's what I would hope that people would be motivated to do once they read these books, both of these books. So,
wow. I'm so excited. It sounds so fascinating. I'm so looking forward to reading this. Can you tell everyone where they can find your books? If you're doing, I don't know if you're doing any in-person book signings, but if you are, please feel free to let everybody know where they can go. But yeah, all that good stuff.
I've got a book fair coming up in New York in July. I don't have the exact date yet. And I know Elena was telling me about one in London coming up. So
that's exciting.
I've had people ask me to be a part of. They want me to have a gathering so I can talk about this.
Nice.
And and they want me to bring books, so I can do that. I haven't gotten the final words on some of that yet. You can get my book on Amazon. Just put my name down there. You gotta be careful because there's more than one Robert Oakes, believe it or not.
I'll make sure I put the links. I'll be putting the links in the show notes for everybody, so they'll be able to click right on it and go straight to it. So yeah, we'll have that for everybody.
The one that I prefer, and I'll give you the link. You may have it. Is my personal bookstore, which is online. And that link is books.by with a slash Oaks-N-Sperry-Publishing.
Perfect. Okay.
That will be where only my books you can find. And the thing about going to Amazon, when they give you the link, you got to compete with about 1,000 other books that are out there on the same genre. So mine.
It's so true.
Might be a manga, but they'll get tired of searching for it.
Yeah, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to get them right to it. So no problem. Yeah. Robert, I can't thank you enough for coming in and sharing your story and your books with me and my audience. And I look so forward to reading them and talking about them more with my audience. So again, thank you very much for joining me today.
Well, thank you very much, Elsa. I certainly enjoyed it. And, feel free to contact me if you want. If you read the book and have questions, feel free to contact me.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would pretty much guarantee I will, because I love going through like a fine-tooth comb and like writing down questions. And usually I'll just sit there and think about them and try and figure it out. But now I'm going to bug you.
Well, that's one reason why I was real interested in being a part of this, because I noticed in your other podcast, you are like that.
I am. I am. It's true. Yeah. I'm not nearly as good as you. I'm not a big researcher like you. So I'm so grateful to you and people like you who will do all the heavy lifting for me so I can just read it. Lazy girl that I'm being, but no, I'm somewhat kidding, but also serious. Oh, I appreciate it. All right, my friend, we will talk again soon, I hope. And for everybody else watching, take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You got it.
You've got a story worth sharing. Now it's time to tell it well. Whether you're an author, entrepreneur, influencer, or podcast guest, stepping in front of the camera or microphone can feel overwhelming. On the other side of the mic is your practical, encouraging guide to becoming a confident, authentic, and engaging interviewee. Written by media personality and best-selling author Elsa Kurt, this book blends real-world wisdom from hundreds of interviews with a touch of humor, grace, and heart. It's more than a how-to. It's a roadmap to presence, professionalism, and peace in every conversation.